Hey, I've got a couple of minor items I want to mention sometime during the meeting. It can be at the end of the meeting or whatever. I just want to bring them up.
Okay. Carla, are you on? Colin, do we have you yet?
Colin's here.
Okay, Colin. Did anyone hear Carla?
No?
I'm here. Okay, there you are. Thank you.
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. It's January 24th, and this is a special meeting of the Dayton Town Council. This meeting is being held by phone because of the COVID-19 pandemic and in compliance with the governor's executive orders. This meeting is open for the public to listen in real time and by a recording afterwards, and an option has been provided for residents to speak during the meeting on agenda items. Present on the phone, we have Clerk Treasurer Michelle Freeworth, Town Manager Mark Harlow, Town Marshal Scott Taylor, and 5 members of the Town Council that will now identify themselves by roll call. Ashley?
I'm here.
Dan?
Yes, here.
Ron?
Here.
5 members are present. We also have Colin Sullivan from BSNS on the line to answer questions if we have any. Before we start, I do want to say one thing. I used to read this whole long thing at the beginning of the meetings and I didn't feel I needed to. So now I feel as though I need to read this again. So everyone has been extended the courtesy of being allowed to speak at these meetings, but it is a privilege and not a right. In order to maintain decorum, when someone interrupts people, they will be muted. When someone deliberately misinterprets statements to disrupt our meeting, they will be muted and will only be unmuted to answer questions if needed. So in other words, once you're muted, you're going to stay muted. Okay, first on the agenda after roll call is the 2022 CCMG street selection and grant application approval. So Mark sent us all of the information and then sent more information, and then Ron asked some questions and we got those questions answered. Hopefully everybody got all their questions answered from Mark. Did anybody have any further questions or discussion about this? Okay. I do. These numbers are crazy high. So I think that we should probably eliminate some of the things. So on my elimination list, I have Heim Drive. I don't think that that's necessary. And also Republican, I don't think is really necessary right now.
And this is Mark. So just so that we all have an understanding, these numbers are inflated at Myers because the last contract we underrated. So these are inflated a bit. How much, it's hard to say, but I think that I just want you to understand that this number is primarily for the grant application so that we be sure and ask for more than enough money. Now, whenever it gets, let's say that we get the grant and it goes to design phase, well, I think that we'll see a drop in these figures once the design is done and the bid packages are better. Now, of course, then always at risk of seeing what the bids come in at. But I just kind of wanted to make sure that everybody understood exactly what they're looking at. Now, also concerning cost and adding or deleting any streets, something I noticed is that on Wesleyan, since we are no longer installing the sidewalk, we usually only do concrete driveway approaches whenever we're putting in sidewalks. So we've deleted the sidewalk already, and look at line item 16 on that price estimate for Wesleyan Drive. The concrete driveway approaches are $49,600. So that would be, if you so choose, another way to reduce this cost estimate.
This is actually, I would think, even if you're not doing sidewalks, you'd want to do the driveway approaches.
And you can. I'm just saying that usually if we do driveway approaches when we're not doing sidewalks, they're asphalt and not concrete, but that's simply a choice.
Yeah, great. If it's dug up and compacted and all that stuff, yeah, I suppose asphalt would work.
This is Ron. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I think down Wesleyan Drive, you got one driveway approach that's a special gray gravel. You got another approach that's a eastern Merrimack River rock. You've got the church's properties that are asphalted already. So I think the best way to go that doesn't stick out, I don't know about what some people feel, but some of these concrete approaches in town, some of them are really high, some of them are big. They just stick out and they're sort of obtrusive. And I think down Wesleyan Drive, we're trying to keep things simple with split rail fence and planning and not cramming a lot of houses in there, that I would prefer to see, and it would save us a lot of money, just asphalt approaches. I think they would blend in, and when you stand at the end of the street, you don't see all these 6 or 8 or 10 or 5 white concrete approaches. Now up in town, in a business area and stuff like that, that's a different story. Or it's somebody up there that prefers something, but I don't think you need to mix all these approaches up. I mean, you add concrete and they're just going to stick out like a sore thumb, so that's my opinion. And we'd save a lot of money by doing it that way.
How many approaches are there on Wesleyan?
Well, there's 2 big ones of the churches, and there's 2
Yeah.
church houses, then there's Ashley's house, our pole barn, and Marilyn's house. So,
So,
and Steve and Gale's comes in off of the right of way off of Ashley and Lisa's. So it's still one approach. It's only one approach out at the end there.
Well, Ron, I would think you'd only do the approaches on the ones that are not currently a hard surface. And there's only 2 approaches that are gravel. Everything else is already a hard surface. Were you wanting to redo the hard surface approaches?
No, not necessarily, but I don't know. I'm trying to think up on Harrison, these other, it seems like in town, some of these have had, like up by the school, there was an approach there that was just gravel and now it's concrete. Some asphalted ones stay asphalt, but some gravel ones turn to asphalt or concrete. I don't know if it was that person's choice or what. If a church has, or you have a concrete driveway and you want concrete, that's fine. Maybe we can just go up and down and see who wants, if they either want asphalt or concrete. I'm just saying up Marilyn's house, our place, the churches on up there by the church ought to all be asphalt. If you want concrete, that's fine. If the church, what's the church got next to you, the Mike and Shirley's house?
And I think it's asphalt. I guess I just heard the ones that are surface, you leave those alone and only do approaches on the ones that are gravel.
Yeah, that's okay. I thought on the ones that are already asphalt, sometimes you guys, they wanted to cut it, like in front of the nursery, they cut it out a couple foot, an inch or 2 deep, so they blended it in. You know, I thought, but you don't have to, I guess, at the end of the church's driveways or the back of houses are okay, I guess you wouldn't have to blend it in. Okay, I mean, wouldn't have to cut out the end 2 foot or so. But on Maryland's and ours that are, gravel, we'll make a decision whether we want gravel or asphalt, I guess.
Yeah,
Is that fair to everybody?
yeah, I guess if it's in bad shape out by the street, then yeah, you cut it back to where you're trying to catch some good stuff so that
Right.
you haven't walked along here to really notice if they're in good shape or bad shape. They look good as you drive by on it in a car, but
Yeah. I think in front of the nursery it was a little bit cracking, but I thought I heard one of them say, well, they wanted to blend it in better or something. I don't know. I don't really care. The driveway is nice shape, like I say, then don't go into the driveway, so that's fine. But I thought you were getting at even the ones with asphalt, changing them to concrete, and that's what I don't think you should do.
No, I don't think you should either.
Okay, good. So we're in agreement on this thing, so.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. Okay.
Was Mark at this point? I kind of robbed him of this conversation.
No, that, I was just bringing up an option there. So just for clarification for Colin Sullivan with BFNS, all we're looking at on Wesleyan as far as driveway approaches would be the two on the north side of Wesleyan.
Right.
Is that correct, Ashley and Ron?
I think so, yeah. And we can talk to Marilyn, and Cindy and I will think of, we want a couple foot of asphalt in there or whatever, so.
Sure, but just for budgeting purposes, is talking about.
Right. Mark, if we,
No,
if
that's
we-
all I have.
okay, Mark, while you're there, if we pick out 4 or 3 or 5 streets or whatever we pick out tonight, and then they go through and enter this with the state, and at that time, the state then says, okay, you've got $600,000 approved or whatever, or 400 or whatever. At that time, you could take off a street, or can you take off a street and mix in something else, or can you add something back in? Probably not.
No, you keep things and then it's subtracted from the grant amount, whatever was budgeted for that, but you cannot add anything in or trade one street for another.
Right, okay. Just thinking here, the church ought to have probably, their approaches will need to be asphalt going in there, a couple foot or whatever you normally do, 2 or 3 foot, because they're probably out along the road, got a lot of wear and tear on them. So I'd do the 2 pre-church houses, and then the church's 2 entrances with asphalt, and then, Ashley will want concrete, I presume, and then, we'll let you know on Maryland's and ours, or just put asphalt for all of them. We can always take it off, okay? I mean, 1 concrete and the rest asphalt, and then we can take it off later on.
Okay.
That'll make it easier, I think.
Any other changes?
Oh, Mark, if we leave Hine Drive on there, that's the only pavement preservation project, and we get the bid for that, and it's still high, and we don't want to spend the money on it. Can we just, say never mind? We're not going to do this project?
Yeah.
And then award the bid to no one? And
Yeah,
then
we say, no, we don't even bid it out. We let NDOT know that we're going to delete that section of street, and then that'll come off of our money that they've given us.
I mean, if we leave it in, and, if we leave it in, don't change it tonight, and then we go through the whole thing, and the bid comes in, and we say to, the council decides, that's still more than we're willing to put into this spot on that road, can we just, without, a problem, say, we're not doing this?
That's a good question, and I don't know the answer 100%.
I thought you just said take off. You could take off. You can't add, but you could take off stuff.
Yeah, and,
You can take it off at the end. You just got to give the money back that you were awarded.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Jen, remember one thing on, it's 25,000 for the slurry or whatever is going up there on Hine Drive, but I'm not sure when they bid, that seems extremely high, but we gotta remember when it comes down to the bid, the state will take care a part of Hine Drive. When it comes up there, the state goes over in front of McAllister, so that will be taken care of by the state. And if you come up Pine Drive and take a left going west, the first 30% of that is brand new blacktop that the truck place put in because they replaced it out in front of their whole entrance. So it looks to me like Hine Drive is only 40% of the total of Hine Drive, what everybody's picturing as Hine Drive. So that might come in, I'd leave it in and then take it out later, but that might come in at $6,000 or $8,000 to do that.
But is this $25,000 that we are seeing right now, is that for all of Hine Drive, or is that for the part of Hine Drive we would be talking about?
It's probably the whole thing.
Yeah, that was for the whole west side of Pine Drive there.
Okay. So then when we get awarded the grant, then we would be more specific before we put it out for bid? Is that what I'm understanding? So then we would...
You are correct, yes.
So then...
Yeah, it would just be a quote probably at that point.
Okay.
So Jim,
Well, I
you're
guess
with
I'm back. Hey, Gene, Mark, I pushed the wrong button. I was disconnected there for a little bit, so I'm back online.
Oh,
Dan,
I'll be back, Mark. Yes, Dan.
I have a comment here. Why don't we submit the bid as our for our grant as we have it set up now, and if we get it, and then we decide that the town's portion is more than we want to spend, then we could reduce it and give the grant money back to the state and just do what we feel that we can afford to do and not be taking stuff out now before we even get the grant.
Okay.
That's a good idea.
I mean, if we can do that and there's no penalty for that, and that's not going to, like, I don't know, like if we can do that, that's fine, yeah. As long as someone's sure that that's allowed. Like, as long as someone's sure that we get the thing back, and
Is that right, Colin and Mark, or?
Yeah, if you don't go, say you don't select Hine Drive, then you would just have to pay that portion of the money back to NDOT. I got Dave Buck here with me as well, who did the estimates here as well. So
oh, awesome, thanks.
yeah, he's getting me advice on what to say.
Well, I agree with
So-
Stan here then, so.
So just to be clear, we apply for the grant, we're awarded the grant, we look at the bids and we say, we don't like how conjunction came in. And so we want to take off all of conjunction. So we say, hey, you get this, we're awarding this bid to you, but we're taking off all of conjunction. So then what happens then is we just give the money back that was awarded to us for conjunction, we give that back. And we just continue on like normal and everything's okay.
Yep, that's
Okay.
right.
Okay.
Good.
I've got a,
Yeah, I'm fine leaving them then.
I'm fine leaving them.
Anyone
I've got a
else?
question on what, and,
Yes, Ashley.
and so it sounds like David Buck's on the line with us. On Wesleyan Drive, on the email I sent to Mark Harlow, Mark Forward, just everybody, talks about relocating utilities on Wesleyan Drive and talks about centering the cul-de-sac at the end. I guess I'd like to know why we need to relocate any utilities. It seems like that they would not interfere with the cul-de-sac. And I guess I'd like to know, Mr. Buck said it was centered on the end of the road. I'd like to know more about that.
Yeah, I do not know for sure if we would need to be in the way of any, or if any utilities would be in the way of a cul-de-sac. Just for purposes of taking quantities and getting a budget number, I estimated it would be centered on the end of the street, so that the circle would kind of be, geometrically centered. If it needs to shift a little bit to avoid moving a fire hydrant or any other utilities that would be, additional cost, we'd do that after the grant's awarded, during the design, and before bids are taken, to tweak it in that way.
Okay.
We-
Appreciate it.
Okay. Mr. Buck.
Were you done, Ashley?
Yes, for right now.
Okay, go ahead, Ron.
Okay, let's clarify, centered on the end of the street. Does that mean you go to the end of the street and you put a stake there, and then that's the center of your cul-de-sac, and then you take a circle, take that line out 70 foot, make a circle all the way around. So basically, part of that cul-de-sac is on new land, and part of the street is under the cul-de-sac. Is that what you're talking about, centered on the end of the street? Or are you talking about centered on the end of the street where the east edge of the cul-de-sac is flush with the east edge of Wesleyan Drive? So therefore, the cul-de-sac is taking up the street and only the church's property and Ron and Cindy's, versus at the end of the Wesleyan Drive where it's taking up Ron and Cindy's, Ashley and Lisa's, and the churches and the streets.
A little bit of both, Ron, honestly. It's not fully tangent all the way to the end of the cul-de-sac like the second scenario described, and it's not fully starting at the very end with the center. It's somewhere between the two, but all the properties are being affected, I can tell you that.
Okay. So,
Why
I guess, my question then to Ashley, and he's probably going to say something here. Ashley, where do you want to see it on the end of that street?
I think the edge of the cul-de-sac, the town has a 55-foot wide right-of-way in that area. The street's only 25 feet. But I think the end of the cul-de-sac, with the far edge of the cul-de-sac, would stop at the town's current right-of-way where it ends.
Well, is there a right-of-way on the end of that street, on the east end of it, or only on the sides of it?
Well, I think it's like most streets, it's on the sides of it.
Okay, so what you're saying is you don't want to put any of that cul-de-sac on your land. You want it solely on the churches and Ron and Cindy's land, is what you're saying.
Well, that's for you all to determine. I think the developer of this property back here, should have took care of a cul-de-sac, years ago, but, here we are now. Wesleyan Drive is 900 feet long, and I don't see what purpose it serves to make Wesleyan Drive 935 feet long. Somebody will have to explain it to me.
Okay, I'll explain it to you. Because
I'm sure.
Because you spent you bought your land from us, Cindy and I, and you spent a lot of money for that land. We spent a lot and developed for our land. We got a lot into it, and the church has got a lot into theirs. And what you're asking is, it seems to me like you got 10 acres. You've actually got more land than we have in that field next to you. You got 10 acres. You've got 142 foot from your front of your house to the end of your driveway. The church has, if they put the church, when you put that cul-de-sac on there, it moves, and it's only the east end is flush with the east end of the road. That means the sides of that cul-de-sac, the road's 22 foot wide. That means that cul-de-sac is going to come out into the church's front yard and take half of that front yard away to their house, almost 40% of that front yard, and 2/3, 75% or so of the whole front along the drive. So they're going to lose 30 to 40% of their front yard by doing that, and Ashley and Lisa are going to not lose 1 foot. To me, the fair way of doing it is putting it, and we went through all this arguing before, but not put it on one person's land, not put it on the other person's land. You got 10 acres. Steve and Gail got 2 acres. The church has 1.5 acres, and Cindy and I got 1.5 acres up there. So it seems to me like the fair thing is put it dead square on the end of that road, and it moves it east a little bit, and optically illusion, the church doesn't lose half their front yard, and everybody, it just moves it 30 foot one way. You know, and you still have 110 foot from your front door to the end of your driveway. I mean, after all, you know, Baker's Farm's got 25 foot driveways or 40. You would have 110, 3 times that much. So I think we need to be fair about this thing. So what are your thoughts on that?
I'd say good luck in court.
That's right, and that's what this.
Wait,
everybody-
okay, so actually, if we put a cul-de-sac on the end of Wesleyan Drive, you will not allow that.
No, I think that there ought to be a cul-de-sac at the end of Wesleyan Drive.
But
Absolutely.
you are unwilling to give up any of your land for the cul-de-sac. You want only 2 other people to give up their land for the cul-de-sac.
I think ideally, the cul-de-sac ought to be shaped like the number 9, and most of it should be on the person's property that sold off the land back here, that developed it, you know, the greedy developer that develops land, okay? But, you know,
No.
if y'all don't want to do,
No,
you'll do
don't
what,
actually.
you'll do what you, so, you know,
Just use your words, Ashley. So you want this cul-de-sac to take a turn, and you want it to all go on Ron and Cindy's property. That's what you want.
I think
You don't want
that's
this to affect Ashley, but you want it, but you only want it on Ron's property, Ron and Cindy's property. That's the end of the story. And any other thing that happens, you're going to take the town to court. Is that what you're saying?
no, that's not what I said.
Okay, tell me again.
That's not what I said. The town's got 55 foot right of way, okay? What do you need for a cul-de-sac? Mr. Buck could probably help us with that. I think it's around 70 feet, okay? You've got, the town has 55 feet. So y'all don't need that much. You can make it happen.
So the front of the church's house would lose 40% of their front yard by doing that. And their yard is smaller than anybody, so that's acceptable to you, right, Ashley?
You have a 55 foot right of way, and correct me if I'm wrong, you need what, 70 feet for this cul-de-sac, is that correct?
Yeah, so you're coming back in the yard from the center of that road, you're coming back 35 foot from the center of that road. So from the edge of that road, you're going 25, 26 foot back into their yard. And because it's 70, the circle is 70 foot long on the end of that street, that those lots, like in Baker's Farm and stuff like that, that lot is probably only 80 foot long. So the cul-de-sac is 70, or it's probably 90 foot there, a bigger lot than in Baker's Farm. But you're taking then the front of it, you're taking 70% of their 90 foot along the entire front and back 25 foot. You're just so you can keep your whole 10 acres intact. And by the way, that developer you're talking about didn't come to you and ask you to sell that land. That developer.
Just stay on topic. Don't go into that.
Okay. Well, actually, Lisa came to us and begged us for it. But anyway, the thing is, it comes down to, actually, so what you're saying again, like 2 years ago, you're saying you want to ruin, if you put the cul-de-sac on the north side, all on Ron and Cindy's land, where my daughter's house is going to be, the best building spot probably in Dayton, you're going to ruin that spot so that you don't have to give up a third of the cul-de-sac along with your neighbors. And you'll also, in the same token, ruin the entire church's property so you don't have to give up 20 or 30 foot on the end of that road where everybody else is giving up 20 to 30 foot.
Can I ask a question? Ashley, why is this cul-de-sac important? Why do you think it's necessary?
There's a whole engineering study on that. You know, we've got garbage trucks backing down Wesleyan Drive. And I'll remind you that there's a church and a school on Wesleyan Drive, right where, as a matter of fact, garbage truck turns around in their driveway. You have all your package delivery trucks and that sort of thing. You know, every street in Dayton and in the county and in the city and in any jurisdiction ought to be able to accommodate a school bus turning around, a fire truck turning around, a garbage truck turning around, package delivery trucks turning around. You know, cul-de-sacs, as it was pointed out in the engineering study on this matter, was the second best option. The best option was to complete Shady Lane and Wesleyan to a point where they connected so you had the three streets. That was the number one way of dealing with this. And it would serve, you know, as an alternate entrance should you need one to the areas. But, so anyway, you've got an engineering study. If anybody needs a copy of it, I'd be more happy to provide it to you. But it was on the town website where you could look at it.
So,
But, you know, you don't want to...
I started talking, Ashley. You stopped. So your engineering study was done a couple years ago, and you were the one to talk to him about the engineering study, and that's why that side cul-de-sac on the side of the road is strictly on Ron and Cindy's, and the road is on Ron and Cindy's. I wonder why nobody ever brought up, if this is so bad and so dangerous and the school bus turned around from the parking lot of the church down to your property is, say, 100 foot, 120 foot. The other end of Shady Lane, which nobody's ever mentioned about, the old board nobody, goes down over the hill, and it's at least 130 foot to the houses down there that a school bus cannot get to, cannot turn around, and everybody's got it on top of it, walk up a hill instead of on a flat road. But you guys, the best alternative would have been is to take Wesleyan Drive, go east through your 10 acres, through the woods and back, and combine it with the farthest point of Shady Lane, and then you would have your loop. You would also tie into Adams Road down there and those people, which you guys wanted to annex them, and you would solve the dead ends on everything. But we know but instead, you and your engineer chose to not do that route. You chose it to run it 100% through our property. Okay? So, that's not going to happen. And now we're to this point right now, and we're I guess just seeing where you stand, because You know, so you want to screw your neighbors so you save your land, but it's okay to screw us also to save your land. You know, it's so, well, you heard his answer, Jen. You'll see in court. So that means he'll take you to court.
Right, so we need to figure out what we're gonna do. And I do just wanna say that that engineering report is on the website, Ashley.
Okay.
And everybody
Thank you.
knows it's like I can go get an engineer and handpick an engineer that's worked for Kohler Brothers before and have them say, the engineer told me exactly that it was Ashley that told him where to put these things. So I
So
got
what
a
is the
solution.
council right now gonna do? What do we wanna do about Wesleyan Drive?
Here's a solution, okay? First of all,
Can
I
I say something?
want to say this, that even if this council, my firm belief is, even if this council, and I think ever the more in the future in Dayton, Indiana, no council, whether it's us or the next one, should ever take somebody's land for political reasons, to screw them over, to push something down their throat. Dayton is made up that we should never have to do that. It's not like some of these cities and stuff like that. Ashley, if you had said, put it on your land and the churches and ours, that would be fine. I'd go for it. But I would never, and you know, we probably have the majority of the board, but I would never in my life, ever, and I would stop that board before we ever took a foot of your land and forced it on you. So you can stop sweating, okay? That will never happen. We're not going to force you to do something. But I think it's just a negative, lousy, neighborly thing that you would screw your neighbors to do it. So my solution is, you can't put a cul-de-sac back just on Pine Drive, or you're going to wipe out one of the best building spots. By the way, we've been offered $165,000 for that building spot, but we didn't want to sell it because we could divide it up and get a heck of a lot more. Plus, you're going to wipe out the church's entire front yard. Well, my solution is, because you're so adamant on these garbage trucks and school buses, but yet don't ever mention the other end of Shady Lane. My solution is put a hammerhead on the end of that street. And right now, you come down there and you got Wesleyan Drive, and don't put it on your property. It'd be strictly, again, on the churches or Ron and Cindy's, but it'd be less than half of a cul-de-sac. And right now, the one end of the hammerhead would be going north, and you'd have 50 foot to pull in, 55 foot to pull in where the gravel entrance of our place is. On the south, then I would make on the south side a square that's 25 by 30 on the church's corner that'd be tucked up under those white pines and next to that green utility box, which is all the church's property, and they've already okayed it, okay? And I would make, so a school bus or garbage truck could pull up, back up, do a 3/4 turn, and pull out of there. And that would be the solution, that it wouldn't devastate and ruin two properties, and we wouldn't take one lousy inch off of your property. And that could be done for probably under $3,000 to $4,000 at tops. Okay, so how about we all think about that solution?
Ashley, did you wanna say something?
No, never mind. There's a lot of misinformation given over the last 15 minutes, but whatever.
Okay, what do you think of that solution? Do you wanna comment on that?
I think a hammerhead is a option. I will say that a lot of school corporations will not let buses back up. But, you know, it is a sort of a solution, I suppose.
Bus doesn't come back here.
Okay, well, I don't think there's many buses back on Wesleyan, and by many buses, I mean any buses. Does anyone else have things to say on this? Carla or Stan? Oh, go ahead, Ashley.
Jen, a lot of your special need buses by some state and federal statutes, have to be picked up at a residence, so to speak, front door or driveway, into their driveway.
Yeah.
So those are the bus that I'm concerned about. You know, your high school bus routes, you know, kids walk into the street or whatever, but, you know, special need bus routes are the ones that are mandated to go to the residence driveway.
Well, and actually, first of all, there's never been a special needs bus back on, we've lived on Shady Lane for 48 years. And when in Laniger's house, when Mike Boas lived there, they both drove a school bus, and they drove back there, turned around and left. The neighbor of ours in our rent house drove a school bus, turned around and left. And one time there's a little itty bitty short bus that came back to the first cul-de-sac. Otherwise, Wesleyan Drive, nothing. There, you know, you and Gail, and or you and Lisa and Gail and Steve and the church, there are no kids, and it'll be 20, 30 years before there'll even be a kid in there. But we're trying to come up with a solution here. I could be like you guys used to do and just take the land, I guess. But we're trying to come up with a solution that's agreeable to everybody. And why don't we pave the road for now? Why don't we pave the road and pave it to the end, and then I'll put that hammerhead in, and we'll see how it works. And it should solve everything.
Can the hammerhead be part of this grant right now? Like, can we do it all at one time?
Probably not, because it's acquiring land on each side. Okay?
I mean, if we're going to pay for it anyway, even if we have to pay for it, we include it and get it done, but then we pay that part. You know what I mean? So it's like one consistent thing. Does Colin or I'm sorry, I forgot your name, but yeah. Do you guys have anything to weigh in on this?
Well, to do right-of-way engineering, we would probably need more time and more than what the grant would allow us to do within the time frame.
Okay.
For right-of-way engineering. So I think what we would recommend is probably wait until the next application round and go after that one if we're going to acquire any right-of-way.
Do you guys have a figure in mind of what it would be to create a hammerhead back there?
We can come up with one. I don't
figures in your brain.
Yeah, I mean, I'd want to sketch it up and get some actual quantities to make sure, because a lot of it would be full depth pavement on the outsides of the street, and just exactly how big something like that would need to be to function the way Ron described. Certainly it's feasible. I just want to have a chance to make a sketch and put some numbers to it. But cost construction-wise isn't the challenge. It's more like Colin said, getting through the land acquisition process and following all those steps. If the land was donated, that speeded up a little bit, obviously, and saved the town money. But documenting it, doing appraisal work and all that is required by law, and that would take the time.
Okay.
Jen, we could do that. We could pay Wesley and then do that, get that prepared and done over the summer. I mean, I can go ahead and make the temporary one and get it. I prepared Shady Lane in the curves, and dug it all out according to code, and they asphalted right over it, so I could do the same on the hammerhead. But then it'll give us all summer and everything for them to acquire whatever's needed and all this stuff. And we could move on with this, you know.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Well, I guess it's safe to say that a cul-de-sac back on Wesley is not happening.
That's right.
Okay. Does Stan or Carla, do you have anything? Stan, you said that you're happy to just send this bid application or bid, whatever it's called, and just how it's presented. Carla, do you have anything?
No, I think I like Ron's solution. From what I understand, how he explained it, I guess I'm not understanding if Ron and Cindy and the church are willing to give their land for that, why would we have to go wait in order to accomplish that goal now?
Carla, I think when I checked into the legalities of it, we're gonna need a little time, and I don't think we have the time right now, okay? I think your thoughts are in the right direction, but, it's gonna, to do this right and everything, we just need more time, and I think it'll screw up our grants, so.
Okay, that's fine. Otherwise, other than that, then that was my only, I just still can't quite figure that out, but if it's a legality thing, then that's fine. Other than that, then I'm fine moving forward with what we have.
Good.
Okay, so I would move to have BSNS submit our 2022 CCMG grant application.
I second it.
Okay, and a motion made by myself and seconded by Stan to have BSNS go ahead and move forward with our grant application. Is there any further discussion before we vote?
I've got one more item.
Okay, Ashley?
We have Haggerty that's closed here north of town. State Road 38 is going to be closed here in the not too distant future. I believe Mark could probably tell us what day that's happening. We may want to hold off on doing any work on Dayton Road until after State Road 38's open back up and Haggerty's open back up. I think we're going to have a lot of traffic through Dayton this summer and this fall, and I'm not so sure that that's a good time to tear into the only north-south road in between those two roads.
I think that isn't the route gonna take them up 26 and around? I don't think we ought to stop with this. I think we ought to proceed and get this done. Otherwise, we'll have to wait another year.
Yeah.
And that's, they're gonna route them up. They would be stupid, and we don't want them to route them anyway through Dayton. So we want to keep them off of there, and I think by working on our roads and everything, it would keep a lot of those people off of that road. Might normally take it.
My biggest concern on Dayton Road are those, I'm going to call them the wrong thing, the sewers, where they're sunk long.
Stormwater.
I'm talking about there's 2 or 3 places on Dayton Road.
Yeah, stormwater drains.
So that's it.
Maybe.
I think waiting another year is going to be bad news for that. We've had people complain about those already. I just think that those need to be taken care of.
I do too.
That's from what's delaying Dayton Road.
If 38 and Haggerty are both closed, why would traffic be going between the two?
Good point.
I think a lot of people will, the Haggerty detour, last time I looked, was already pointed down Dayton Road.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know when they close 38, where their signage is going to be, but typically on a detour, your signage is at the last opportunity to get off that road.
Stan, it's so they can come into Dayton, come down Haggerty, come down through our town, and head back to Lafayette on 38. That's a joke. you're right, Stan, there shouldn't be any, they'll have another, they won't route people through Dayton because you can't go anywhere in Dayton. I mean, what are those people gonna do?
And we don't even know that this is going to be an issue, right? This is just like what if they're still closed a year from now? Oh no. Like this might happen. I don't want to wait on Dayton Road. And like Carla said, those stormwater drains and that corner of Dayton and Main, I don't want to wait a year because there might be some traffic issues, maybe because of some work that they're doing outside of Dayton.
Right.
Mark, I have a question. Is it, and I assume you are who I should ask, is it normal that they would route traffic into Dayton without telling us? Like that we're becoming a detour?
I was a bit surprised by it because no, we weren't notified that they were going to do that. Plus, the map that they sent out indicated that they were taking them out to veterans over to either 38 or 26. So I was a bit surprised by their signs that are up on Haggerty and on 38 here saying this is the detour. So no, we were not notified, asked, or anything about using that as a detour.
Usually they don't run you through little towns, so I would check with the state on that.
Well, I was going to say,
Well, I'm talking about
signs appropriately.
Well, right now we're just talking about Haggerty, which is a county project. So the county's the one who is detouring people down the Dayton Road right now. Although their map indicated that they were going elsewhere. But I suspect, and probably in about 60 days, 1st of April, they're going to shut down, the state is going to shut down State Road 38. So in about 60 days, it'll be closed to through traffic. And their detour is veterans to 52 to 900 on the south side, and veterans to 26 to 900 on the north side.
How about, Jen, I've got to talk to Stuart Klein, the county, within the next week about Dayton Road South and all that for next spring. I think he's the head of that county work and everything. Let me talk to him about the detours.
Okay, yeah, thanks.
You know, and maybe
Just to ask if it got signed properly or if somebody just made up their own detour when they
right.
I don't know, it doesn't make sense that they would go off.
Might be a temporary, real quick thing until they really get on the work and then they change it, so.
Sure, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, if you could ask him.
But I think we need to we've done all this grant stuff and everything up to this point. We need to get our roads done as well as they need to get their roads done. So we got a lot of problems on Dayton Road with sidewalks, with stormwater drains, with elevations. We just need to get it done.
Okay, so I think we're leaving Dayton Road in. Does anyone else have anything before we vote? Okay, we'll take a roll call vote. This is to move forward with our 2022 CCMG grant application with BSNS. Ashley, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
And I vote yes, so we're going to move forward with that. Okay. Next on the agenda is State Road 38 Water Relocate, KA Contracting, LLC. This is on the agenda because, and I don't know, Colin, if you want to stay on for this. Hopefully this is quick. But
Yep, I can stay on.
Okay. So I have an email confirming that we'll be reimbursed by the state for the $74,000 for moving the utilities for their State Road 38 improvements. And he also said that they have extra confirmation also for a purchase order of $12,914 for the engineering. So we would pay BSNS and then we would be reimbursed for that. So that $12,914 is more than Michelle told us in December, which was 10,818. But I don't know. I'm gonna have to try to clarify that later. But
No, that was just a prior authorization that they got approved up to. We've already paid BF&S everything, and all of those bills have been submitted to NDOT. So they just got the approval for up to that amount.
so what was the total that you have for BF&S that we're getting reimbursed by the state?
Hold on, let me go to that email.
Okay.
Give me just 1 second. My internet in here is freezing up. Okay, so I think maybe, so it does, when I sent the email over, it was the $12,914, but if I remember correctly, maybe there was another invoice that was paid that we got from BF&S at the last minute, and then that's when we finalized it. Isn't that correct, Mark? That's what bumped up that amount than what I originally let them know of what we had paid to that point.
I don't know about the last invoice. I remember seeing an email that's saying that they would pay engineering fees up to $15,000 and some odd dollars. But the bill ended up from BF&S being the $12,914. So of course it's less than what they had agreed to pay, so they're willing to pay that.
See, and this is
And I know we had gotten, I think it was, I was going to say, I know that we had gotten that $1,000 bill, and then, I think what the issue was, was it Colin? Were you the one who I talked to confirm, to make sure that we were adding up the numbers correctly because there was a conflict of payment? Were you the one who I was working with on that?
Yes,
Okay,
that's me.
so there was one invoice that I think I might have reported or something, but then realized that we didn't pay the full invoice. But then when I talked to Colin, it wasn't actually part that we owed. So then that's when I went and back and double checked. But I have a full file that I can send the board that shows the exact file that I sent to NDOT to show them all of the BF&S bills that were paid for the State Road 38. So I can send you guys the file of what I submitted.
and your total for that is $12,914.
Yes, that is the original email that I sent for everything. That was the $12,914.
See, and I'm concerned. I don't want the state to over reimburse us, like overpay us, and then somehow that messes up the entire thing and we have to pay all the engineering back. Because according to the records I have, the engineering for that was $10,700.
Now I know we're ultimately adding up some stuff. There was voices that I confirmed with Mark to make sure, because there was things that said the state, like the wording, there was specific wording for the invoices that were to be sent to NDOT for reimbursement regarding 38. I had to separate those invoices. So I can send you guys the file of what, because I gave them to Mark. I went through them with Mark before I scanned them, added them up. I also confirmed with Colin before we then sent them to NDOT for approval for the prior authorization of reimbursement. And then I have them actually sat out here separated to keep them out until everything was done. But I had Mark double check every invoice before I scanned it and turned it in to NDOT to make sure that I wasn't turning in anything more or anything less. And that's why I confirmed with Colin, because like I said, I didn't want to turn it in and then get the prior authorization and be like, oh no, we missed an invoice, and then had to go through that whole process again.
Because, Jen, what I think
So
you're
I
right.
don't want to start an argument, but during the last meeting, when you said that you and Mark had emails with NDOT, we asked if we could have them, and you said yes. But then afterwards, I asked Mark for them, and he said he wasn't even on those emails. I asked you for them. You refused to give them to me unless I filled out a public access request form. So then I don't have that information. I don't know. Mark was situation also.
Mark was on the original.
In December, hold on. In December, like, I don't know why we're even talking about this again, honestly, because at our December meeting, we approved paying KA Contracting their $74,000 and having you submit any necessary paperwork. So it was like,
no, we
weird that
we did not approve the paying of the invoice.
Mark.
No, we did not, because
okay, hold on. Mark, do you know why did you bring this up again last month, at the last meeting? Is what I'm asking. I'm asking Mark why he brought this up at the last meeting.
Let me look. I think probably because the contractor's wanting paid. Let me see.
At the December meeting, we had discussed that we were not sure if we paid it and then NDOT reimbursed us, or if we sent it to NDOT and then NDOT paid it. So you guys approved us sending everything over to NDOT and then finding out which way it needed to go, and then we would readdress it. So the council never made a motion to approve paying the $74,000. So
It was
then
my
we
motion.
submitted all the paperwork.
Go ahead.
That's funny because Mark and I mean, if that was the case, I'm sure Mark would have remembered that and we would have paid it the second I got that email. There was a motion to turn in all of the paperwork and submit the invoice to them to get the prior authorization or their approval to find out. But I'm almost 100% sure there was no motion or vote to actually pay the town to pay that $74,000 because we didn't want to pay it and then not get reimbursed because NDOT was supposed to pay it. So yes, there was a motion to submit all of the paperwork to NDOT, but there was no thing for the. So I mean, even if you guys want to see the file of everything that I scanned and then wait for that, that's fine. But the whole point of right now, tonight, is to approve getting that $74,000 invoice, allowing to go ahead and pay it per NDOT so that they can reimburse us. So the BS&S stuff, you know, you guys can sit there and look at the file to see what I sent over, and Mark is on all of those emails. The only one that Mark was not on, and I don't know why he wasn't because it was on our email thread, was when Christopher emailed me to let me know that they got the prior authorization. So Mark did have all of the original. Mark just wasn't in on the email reply that I got the day of the meeting saying that there was a prior authorization. But I will email all of you the file that I emailed NDOT right now, so that you guys can look at all of the invoices and add them up yourself if that makes you feel better. That's not an issue.
Like, I felt fine about this after the December meeting when we moved on from it, and then it came up again, and there were emails, and I don't know what the emails were about, and then there's a $12,000 amount, but I've got a $10,000 amount, $10,700 amount, but then you had said $10,818, so then none of the numbers are matching, and now you're asking for approval again, and we've already, like, it was one motion. I made a motion to approve the $74,000 to KA Contracting and to have Michelle submit any necessary paperwork, was the full motion.
And you approve the contract or the thing or the actual payment? Because that's two different things.
Paying them. Paying KA Contracting. Because we have the invoice. Because I have the invoice on the agenda under invoices, but Mark brought it up during his time. So when we even got to that, I said, oh, KA Contracting, that's already been handled in Mark's section of the meeting.
Well, that's funny that, Mark, do you recollect that conversation? Because if that was the case, we would have paid this invoice 3 weeks ago.
Well, the way I remember it is
Or 2 weeks ago.
that it was our understanding that we submit the bills, both for the contractor and the engineering, to NDOT, and they pay the contractor and the engineering. What we found out before the last board meeting was that no, NDOT sent you an email, Michelle, saying, no, you guys pay him and we will reimburse you for this amount. Well, the board wanted some clarification on that, and I believe that was accomplished through the NDOT email that was sent directly to them. So now we're sitting here this evening saying, okay, so now that we're all on the same page, we pay the contractor and the engineering and we will get reimbursed for this dollar amount. I'm hoping that this evening what happens is that you get approval to write the check to KA Contracting for $74,000. Now, if there's a question about the exact dollar amount with BF&S, Michelle, send them all the invoices so that they're comfortable with that final dollar figure, and we can move on from there.
Right. I don't see,
I don't know.
We'll all go back and
brought up again the last meeting because it was taken care of in December. So Mark, when you brought it up at the last meeting, what were you wanting at the last meeting?
I was wanting it so that we could get the contractor paid. I probably was of course, I didn't know Michelle had gotten that email yet whenever I made the agenda, but I was probably just trying to get that discussion going.
It was not the agenda for the last meeting. The last meeting you just said, Michelle has some information about KA Contracting that we need to handle.
Yes,
because I got the email at 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah, because she had just let me know before the meeting that she had gotten an email. I wasn't aware of that,
And it was the email from KA Contracting asking why they hadn't gotten paid?
No, it was the email from NDOT saying that they would reimburse the town for making payment.
Michelle, can you pass that email on to Jen so she can understand? Maybe it'll clarify things a little bit.
She has clarification. Christopher himself has emailed her. I don't know what the confusion is, and it's no different than you guys thinking that you voted wrong on a salary ordinance, so you re-vote just to cover your butt. It's quite simple. Make a motion for me to write the check. I don't understand why we're arguing.
The difference is because there's different amount of BF&Ss, and I think we're
not talking about BF&S right now. We're talking about KA Contracting.
Let him finish, please.
Let me finish it, please, Michelle.
I
think we're all worried about, I would be worried about, that several years ago, we lost $300,000 of state grant money for our roads because we the state overpaid us a few lousy $1,000 and we didn't pay it back. And so we lost the next year's grant money of $300,000. So I think Jen and I agree, we need to be very careful and exactly spot on here on what's going on, so we don't overpay, we don't underpay or whatever, because some technicality could throw out then our next grant money.
Well, not just that way.
This has nothing to do with CFNS. This has to do with KA contracting. Me paying KA contracting has nothing to do with NDOT reimbursing us tomorrow. This is simply so I can write a $74,000 check to KA contracting. If you don't want them to reimburse us the $12,914 yet, then we will wait to send them a message that says, hey, now everything has been paid, you can release us the money. Like, you guys are making this way more complicated and a circus when it's quite simple. This is about paying KA contracting, because originally, hold on, Jen, I'm talking. Don't interrupt me if you don't want me to interrupt you. Mark said, point blank just to you, that he was under the impression that NDOT would pay the contractor themselves. So we didn't think that we needed approval to pay the contract for KA contracting. Now we found out when I got the email at 1:29 p.m. on January 10th, the day of the meeting, that we have the prior authorization, or that they have it to reimburse the town. So we are supposed to pay KA contracting. So then that's why it was brought up at the meeting that day that said, hey, we found out we're the ones that need to pay it. You guys did not vote for the payment of the contract. You guys voted for the approval of the contract to be submitted for NDOT to pay. There is a difference. There is really not that hard. If you're uncomfortable with the BSNS, that's a whole other situation. And I will send you the things. You can use your calculator and do whatever you need to do. This is about KA contracting. And then we'll go back or whatever. I mean, the invoices have already been submitted. BSNS has already been paid. That we need to get this contractor paid. It's really quite simple. I'm pretty sure the contractor can understand it, so I don't know why you're making it difficult.
The contractor should have been paid. We approved paying it in December. The reason I am making it difficult is because everything you touch is some sort of trap, and you do it wrong, and you try to make it wrong so that we're wrong, and nothing you do can be trusted. So then when I see these numbers go up, and I'm bringing it up, it raises red flags in my brain that says, watch what you
literally are the most ignorant person.
Stop interrupting her, Michelle.
About making sure that we do this correctly. I don't want to get stuck paying $87,000 for this, because let me remind everybody, this project started out at $22,000, $24,000, and this isn't our project. This is a state project. So the four of the members on the board said, that doesn't feel right. Why should we pay that much money of town money for a project that isn't ours? So Ron made some phone calls, and the state ended up saying they'd pay for it. So I don't want to pay $87,000. I don't want to screw this up. You refuse to give me emails from NDOT that evidently you and Mark are on. I can't get those emails, so I can't confirm anything there. All I can do is ask questions and ask questions and ask questions, and then in the end, hope that this works out in our favor. Because in my mind, this was already taken care of, so it's suspicious that we're talking about this again. So I will make a duplicate motion and approve. I would like to move to approve paying KA Contracting their $74,000.
I second.
There's been a motion made by myself and seconded by Stan to pay KA Contracting their $74,000. Is there any further discussion before we vote? And before we vote, I just want to point out that, yes, I have muted Michelle because she would not stop talking while I was talking. And as I said at the beginning of the meeting, continue to interrupt people, you'll be muted. So everyone knows He is muted. Okay, this is to pay KA Contracting. Ashley, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Carla? Yes. And I vote yes, so hopefully this time they get paid. Okay, Colin, thank you for staying on the phone for so long. I appreciate you being here in case we had any questions.
Yep, of course.
All right, moving on to the next thing on the agenda is the 2021 CCMG closeout. Mark, do you want to take this?
I get, we're still at the same point where we were at the January 10th meeting.
Okay.
Midwest Paving has not returned the necessary pay work to close out the project. One thing that the council wants to be aware of is that, so let's say that this goes on for quite time, and in the last email that all from them, they said they turned that paperwork over to their legal counsel. That's why it hasn't returned. So, just so we're all on the same page, that not closing at 2021 CCMG contract does not affect anything that may be eligible for in the 22 calendar year, but if not resolved before January 1st of 2023, we would then be ineligible to apply for more funding.
Good to know that it won't affect 2022 at least.
Yes, so I mean, we've got a whole year to get this resolved, but I just wanted to just give you the information. We're good for this calendar year, but if it would happen to go longer than 12 more months, it would affect our 2023 application.
Right.
Hopefully it won't, but I wanted to at least make sure everybody had a clear understanding of that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on to our 50-year long-range transportation plan. So we were contacted by Tim Stroshine from Area Plan, asking if Dayton has anything to include in their in the county's 50-year transportation plan. And that reminded me that we said when we ended Yost Drive that we'd like to use that land for recreational trails. And also, recreational trails was a popular response on that survey, that SurveyMonkey survey that we put out. So I want to go ahead and ask Alicia to make up a resolution to designate that land that the town owns, inside the town and outside of town limits, for recreational trails.
Okay. You need a motion on that?
Yeah, probably, yes.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to have Alicia make a resolution for the February meeting, designing our land inside and outside the town limits for recreational trails.
I second it.
Oh, okay. There's been a motion made by Ron and seconded by Stan to have Alicia draw up a resolution designating our land as recreational trails. Is there any discussion before we vote? Okay. Ashley, how do you vote?
No.
Oh, okay. Stan?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
And I vote yes, so that passes 4-1. Does anybody have anything else that they would like to send to Area Plan for their 50-year long-range transportation plan?
I do.
Okay.
I think that the Yost Drive path that you just voted on should be left on the 50-year transportation plan. You know, that strip of land was intended to be a drive to service business in residential area and such. And I think it's a great mistake in, turning it into a recreational trail. I think there's other land that could be, would be better served for that rather than that pathway. And I think Yost Drive ought to be left on the 50-year plan.
I think that Yost Drive still will be. The county will have their Yost Drive on there, I'm sure. I don't know for sure where they're putting it. I don't know that they know that information, but I'm sure it will still be on there. And if you have more ideas for where we could put recreational trails, then that would be awesome, because I think people really want things like that.
Can I speak?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think we ought to leave it off of there, the Yost Drive, because that ship sailed, and we need to really look at, and all of us need to maybe be thinking next few meetings what we'd like to see over on the Barry's land, and have a goal to work for something instead of just always being negative and cutting it all down. I mean, I'd like to know, like Ashley's and Carla's, everybody's thought on what they'd like to see up over by Dayton Road and everything, so we can plan and gear for that. But I don't think we should leave something on there that's going to be nothing but semis coming into our town. So, just my opinion.
Does anyone else have anything? Oh, go ahead, Ashley.
Yes, your survey money, talked about trails and pathways and stuff like that, and why we are not adding sidewalks to these areas like Wesleyan Drive. Why are we not putting a multi-use path on one side of Dayton Road? Why are we not doing a dedicated bicycle lane on Dayton Road? Summertime you have a lot of bicycle traffic. Bicycle clubs, riding through Dayton. There's opportunities to incorporate bicycle in pedestrian-friendly areas to these projects, and we're not taking advantage of it. South Street was another one that I always thought should have had a sidewalk down at least one side of it. But so if we're going to be bicycle and pedestrian-friendly, then we need to have that in our projects. And what I've seen so far, it's not in. That's all.
Ashley, I think what we're trying to do is first of all, when we okayed the sidewalk along Dayton Road, and you okayed it also, and never said anything about making that path at the time, I'm for that. But we also have the old sidewalk along Dayton Road that's only 3 foot wide, I think, instead of the new one 4 foot. But I think what we're trying to accomplish here is the money it costs for some of these things. You can take the inside of our town on these old sidewalks, forget about the new ones and a bicycle on them. You can't even walk over the old ones. People are tripping, they're dangerous and everything. They're nasty. So we're trying to get streets done, and instead of South Street sidewalk, which there's hardly anybody walking down there, we're trying to get Conjunction Street done up by in the streets by the sidewalks by the school, where there's thousands of people walking each week on them versus maybe 20 in a week on another sidewalk. But one day at some time down, clear out Dayton Road, it'd be nice to have a wide thing where you could have a jogging path down there, have that sidewalk 4, 5, 6 foot wide. That would be great. But we okayed the other one too, and it was never brought up. So anyway, we're trying to stretch our dollars. There's only so many dollars, and we're trying to get the real, the pitiful sidewalks in town done first.
Well, Ron, I remind you, when we looked at Dayton Road, that I, with every other board member standing around me, brought up the fact that we had a sidewalk on one side and multi-use path on the other side. So I did bring that up amongst the board members. South Street, the other day I saw a school bus unloading at the corner of Dayton Road and South Street. I counted 7 children that got off that bus and took off walking down South Street. So, there are kids on South Street.
Yeah, I never said there wasn't. I agree with you. There are. The South Street has people on it, but the difference is go up and look at the school buses and the people walking around up on Conjunction and stuff, you might have 70 walking down there in a day. So you got to pick and choose. And I agree at that. I'm all for these wider sidewalks with pathways and bike trails. I think they're neat in other towns, and I remember you saying it. But when we came up and talked about actually a year ago doing the sidewalk for the church along there and everything, nobody ever really pushed it, you know. So good thing we probably didn't, because that outfit we had do it screwed it up anyway and had to redo it. So, you know, but anyway, I agree with, you know, wider sidewalks, but that's all.
Stan or Carla, do you have anything that you would like
No.
to be sent to Tim? Okay. And this 50-year long-range plan is redone every few years, so it's not like we missed our opportunity to get on their plan for 50 years, just so everybody knows. All right. The next thing is the Randy Martin Stay / training reporting. We all got the agreement, the stay agreement that Alicia wrote up. So I would move to approve the agreement for indefinite stay of administrative proceedings and allow me to sign that agreement.
Jen,
I second it.
Jen, before we
Yes.
approve that, I got,
Yep.
I had sent a copy of that to Randy's attorney, Martin Brown, and I told him that we had not yet approved it, but that we were bringing it up to this meeting. He said that they had a few language tweaks, but they think that everything is mostly agreeable. It's just a couple of word choices. And he said that he would propose that we vote on that at the February meeting, just because they want to make sure they get the language changes. But he said that they were minor, and he didn't think that they would be too influential. Of course, I'll read them before I resubmit it. But he did say that have a couple of little changes. So before we approve it, I just wanted to bring that up.
Oh man, we're never going to get past this. Okay, in that case, I withdraw my motion. And we'll take care of that in February. All right. On to the invoices. These invoices were all in our Dropbox. There are a few that didn't make it onto the agenda just because the agenda, I made it and distributed it before the deadline to submit invoices. So there's a few extra that aren't on the agenda. First up is AIM. So the original invoice that we got was for $1,402, but I talked to Leslie at AIM, and she's agreed that our 2022 AIM dues would be $500 and not $1,402. So if you look at the invoice in the Dropbox, it has that on there. It has the $1,402 crossed out and then the $500 for Leslie on there. So I would move to approve this Accelerate Indiana Municipalities invoice number 83084 for our 2022 AIM dues for $500.
Second.
It has been a motion made by myself and seconded by Carla to approve this AIM invoice. Is there any discussion before we vote? Okay, how do you vote, Ashley?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
And I vote yes, so that's approved 5-0. Next, we have Axon Enterprise, Inc. I move to approve invoice number INUS 045252, dated January 6, 2022 for $311.70.
Second.
There's been a motion made by myself and seconded by Carla to approve this Axon Enterprise invoice. Is there any discussion before we vote? Okay, how do you vote, Ashley?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
And I vote yes, that's approved 5-0. Next, I would move approve FJF Services invoice number 27187 dated 1/4/22 for $1,165.
Second?
There's been a motion made by myself and seconded by Carla to approve this FJF Services invoice. Is there any discussion before we vote? Okay, how do you vote, Ashley?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
And I vote yes, so that's approved 5-0. Next is the Indiana League of Municipal Clerk Treasurers. You'll see in the Dropbox that I have filled out this invoice with names and email and whatever information they needed. So I move to approve the ILMCT invoice for 2022 dues in the amount of $353.
Second?
There's been a motion made by myself and seconded by Carla to approve the ILMCT invoice. Is there any discussion before we vote? Okay, how do you vote, Ashley?
No.
Do you know that this is for Michelle to be part of this group and for the listserv?
I don't have a copy of it, no, I don't.
Okay, it's the Indiana League of Municipal Clerks and Treasurers.
Okay.
Okay, so it's fine. If you want to vote that way, I just want to make sure you know what it's for.
I'll check my vote to yes. I got confused with the other association.
Oh, okay. How do you vote, Stan?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Carla? Yeah. Carla, was that a yes? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Thank you. And I vote yes, so that's approved 5-0.
Jen, wasn't that in the Dropbox? That
Yeah, these are all in the Dropbox.
Ashley should have read your Dropbox.
Okay, that's okay, Ron. I move to approve Indiana Department of Environmental Management invoice 326869 dated 1/12/22 for $508.25.
Second?
Okay, there's been a motion made by myself and seconded by Carla to approve this Indiana Department of Environmental Management invoice. Is there any discussion before we vote? Okay, how do you vote, Ashley?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
And I vote yes, so that's approved 5-0. Next, I move to approve Mark Harlow's mileage claim for when he went to training for 126 miles, dated January 19th of 2022.
Second?
There's been a motion made by myself and seconded by Carla to approve Mark Harlow's mileage claim. Is there any discussion before we vote? How do you vote, Ashley?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
And I vote yes, that's approved 5-0. Next, I would move to approve road truck equipment invoice number 929245 dated 1/6/22 for $456.74. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion made by myself and seconded by Ron to approve this road truck equipment invoice. Is there any discussion before we vote? Okay, how do you vote, Ashley?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Carla? Carla?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. And I vote yes, so that's approved 5-0. And finally, I move to approve Team EJP invoice number 5959988 dated 11/24/21 in the amount of $210.
Second?
It has been a motion made by myself and seconded by Carla to approve this Team EJP invoice. Is there any discussion before we vote? Okay, how do you vote, Ashley?
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Ron,
Yes.
Carla,
Yes.
and I vote yes, so that's approved 5-0. So that is all the invoices. Mark, before we get to public comment and council comment, do you want to bring up the things that you said you needed to mention?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
So each year, the town designates someone to be their representative on the Tippecanoe County Partnership for Water Quality, which is the county stormwater committee. And what they, in the past 3 years, it's been me, but they require a letter from the town saying so-and-so is designated as a town of Dayton representative. So it's that time again. So in the past, at times it's been a town council member. Since I've been here, I've taken care of that position, and I would be glad to continue to do that. But just wanted to bring it up that we kind of need to make a motion and designate who you want that person to be for the 2022 calendar year.
All right, I would move to designate Mark Harlow as our representative on, what was it for again? Tippecanoe County
Tippecanoe
Water
County.
Quality
Yeah, partnership.
Partnership.
Yeah.
I second it.
Okay, there's been a motion made by myself and seconded by Stan to designate Mark Harlow as our representative. Is there any discussion before we vote? Okay, how do you vote, Ashley?
Yes.
Stan?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
And I vote yes, so that passes 5-0. So do you need me to write up a letter, Mark, to them?
No, I'll type something up like I have in the
Oh, okay.
past, and I'll send it to you, and you can look at it, and then we'll just have to sign it. The second part of that is that they, I don't want to say require, but they encourage members of the county stormwater committee to attend the stormwater conference over at Purdue each year. This year it's on February 10th. It's from like 9 to 3 for one day. But there is a cost for that. It's $125. I'm not offended if you don't want me to attend it, and I'm not offended if you do want me to attend it. So, but
You think it'd be helpful?
if you do want me to, I think so. What it does, it just brings you up to speed on the new laws concerning stormwater management, and that's a fairly large topic in Tippecanoe County because of Wildcat Creek's designation and also the Wabash River. So what I'm saying is, yeah, we need to be up to speed on it. I'd be glad to attend it, but there is a cost, and whenever I register for it, I just wanted to be upfront that there is a $125 fee for attending that conference over at Purdue on February 10th.
And this would be different, like, information that they're giving you, or more in-depth information than what you would get from, like, the Rural Alliance of Indiana Alliance of Rural Water? Well, whatever that's called.
Yeah,
It would be
Alliance.
different or more.
Yeah, Indiana Rural Alliance, that is the water and Surrey sewer. This rainwater or stormwater management.
Okay.
And the reason they're encouraging us to attend this is that the state just recently, IDEM, Department of Environmental Management, recently made stricter rules concerning stormwater management in the state of Indiana. So they said the purpose of this will be able to bring everybody up to speed on the new laws that the state's enacted.
I'm on board with you going if that's something that you want to do, if you're willing to do that.
Yeah, I'm willing to.
Does anyone else have a problem with that?
Good idea.
Okay.
I think it's great.
I don't think we need a motion for it, but I just kind of wanted to talk about it. But that's all I've got.
Okay, thanks, Mark. We have no public comment, so we'll move on to
I have a
council comment.
question. I have a question from Mark, sorry, before we move
Oh,
on.
sure,
Sure.
Marla.
Can you give us the dates again, of that conference when you'll be gone?
February 10th.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Ashley, do you have anything for council comment?
Well,
Dan, do you have anything?
No.
Ron, do you have anything?
Just a couple quick things.
Okay.
For the next, why we're talking about, Wesleyan Drive and Shady Lane and the cul-de-sacs, it seems to me like we all ought to also, maybe next meeting, talk and clarify that we either want that water system looped or we don't want it looped. And I think it seemed to be such a critical thing a couple years ago. And I'm surprised nobody's brought it up again. But I think what we need to make a decision on that is, I would like to see, which I asked for a couple years ago, and I don't know who does this, Mark, but maybe it's BF&S, but I'd like to see reports on the output of that water, the pressure of that water, and the condition of that water, and also a report on how, by looping that system, that it will increase that condition, pressure, and everything to make it worth spending thousands of dollars. Because I've talked to BF&S before, and they seem to think it's fine. I've talked to a couple of our past people that handle stuff like Mark does, town managers, and they don't think it needs to be done. But so we need a little bit of information to make that decision. But we need, if you're going to loop that thing, you ought to maybe try to get it in before the cul-de-sacs. But just a thought. And maybe nobody wants it anymore. I don't know. I don't think the residents really want it. But the second thing we need to also, Mark, if you can get this, bug BF&S to get the discharge of that southeast pond of Malacases is in that back corner by Pessoa Drive. We need some kind of report for the output of that pond before that subdivision started and now. So once and for all, lay it to rest and tell those people in back and get it settled that either that pond is done right or it's not done right. The discharge is either okay or it's not done okay. So maybe you can talk to Colin or something. So
Okay.
that's all I got for now.
Okay. Thanks, Ron. All right, I just have one thing. Let me unmute Michelle. Michelle, I noticed that on my most recent pay stub, the stipend for council president was removed. I don't know if that was just like a mistake or I don't know how to remedy that going forward.
It was probably just a mistake. Because
It was on there for the
I was in a time crunch. You can probably just get double paid on the next paycheck.
Okay, it was on the very first, like I got it for the very first paycheck for this year, but then it
I just
wasn't
didn't
on-
accidentally click it. It wasn't a conspiracy against you. It was just a misclick.
Okay, well I just wanted to let you know. I figured it would be an easy fix.
Well, you could have emailed me. Thanks, though.
Okay, having no other business before us, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.